Hello everyone, my name is Bryson and I added some features to a document sharing app using AI. So the brief asked for 3 customer requested features on the existing PHP app. I chose to extend the existing stack rather than rebuild it because the brief specifically asked reviewers to keep Docker Compose up, working, and add migrations rather than edit the schema. And so rebuilding would have thrown that away. So if we look at the file tree, the app starting off is very small. SQLite, 4 tables, a staff admin page, a shareable link page, a recipient view page, and an audit log helper. And so that recipient links are opaque 32 character hex tokens. And that part matters because I deliberately preserved it. There's a single test file that reseeds the database and runs assertions. And so I followed the exact same path. So if we come over to the PR, I picked the order, scheduling first, search second, readable slugs third, and underneath all of them a small migration runner so the schema rule would be respected. And so scheduling has the biggest behavior surface. So I wanted the audit log and time zone story right from the get-go, and then search and slugs were smaller and built on top. And so if we come over to the documentation and implementation trade-offs, this is my notes.md that I wrote up for the features. I have four decisions worth calling out. So one is the migration approach. Plain SQL files in migrations ordered by file name applied via library migrations.php. A schema ledger table tracks what's been applied. And so it's very item potent. And so there's no down migrations. And the SQLite's pre 3.35 story for dropping columns is kind of awkward. And the brief is only forward only. And then secondly, time zone handling. So SQLite's date time is in UTC, and PHP's default time zone in this app is America or Chicago. And so I store everything in UTC and convert the request edge in the library time.php file. And so that avoids subtle off by one bugs around the different time zones. And then third, schedule gates the body, not the link. And so the staff need the email link in advance, and the link still resolves. Only the body is hidden. And so the body is the secret. And then fourth, search is like collate no case. And so not FTS5, it's not fuzzy. The realistic staff workflow is partial recall, welcome, onboarding, but the substring handles all that. And so the migration runner makes a future swap to FTS5 super easy. And so now we get into a security product trade-off. And so if we go to the view.php file and the share.php file right here, the most important call I made was readable slugs do not replace opaque share tokens. And so the brief leaves this kind of open. The GitHub README leaves this kind of open. My reasoning is direct in that the slugs are derived from titles, and so they leak intent and they're kind of guessable. And so the tokens are 16 random bytes. Replacing tokens with slugs would be a regression. So slugs are a staff-facing reference, the admin table or the share edit URLs. And tokens stay the recipient across the mechanism. And so I added 6 character random suffix to slugs for collision avoidance and trial enumeration friction. And that suffix is not a security control. So lastly, if we go to the test.php file here, I added 9 tests and they all passed. Migration idempotency, schedule gating, positive and negative, search case insensitivity, slug uniqueness on duplicate titles, and so on. And they all pass. Great. So there's one caveat for this project. Docker wasn't installed on the machine I was working on, and so I ran the suite locally with homebrew PHP. I confirmed by inspection that no PHP 8.4 or 8.5 only syntax was used, and so no new dependencies were added. And Dockerfile and the docker compose.yml were preserved and are byte identical to main. And so the Docker workflow in general is preserved. And so if a reviewer runs Docker compose up or Docker compose exec app PHP, it will do exactly as the README documents. And so for a note on my AI workflow for this project, first I created a public GitHub repo, and then I came to my terminal and I cloned the repo for the existing document sharing app. I then removed its origin and I added my public repo to the origin. I then opened up Cursor. Cursor is a AI editing software where I cloned the repo to Cursor so that I could have my Claude Code agent work in Cursor. I use Claude Code Max as my designated coding agent, and I use the agent to build the features for this project.